Hey everybody, it's Mariana with 3 Peaks Classroom. If you are brand new to my channel, first of all, welcome and hello. I am super glad that you found me in this little corner of the world. But I am a grade 3 and grade 4 teacher here in Alberta, Canada, and I love to make helpful YouTube videos for other teachers just like you. In today's video, I want to share with you my 5 favorite read alouds that I use to teach about Remembrance Day, plus another 4 books that you might not have considered to use in your classrooms when teaching about Remembrance Day. Just before I dive into today's video and I share the books with you that I'm going to recommend for Remembrance Day, I want to let you know about a video that I have previously recorded a few years ago about Remembrance Day, and it's an activity that you have likely never done with your class before. If you're anything like me, then every year you're trying to think of something new and creative to do that still honors Remembrance Day, the meaning of Remembrance Day. You know, we read the same books, we talk about the same poems or prayers, or we color poppies, we make wreaths, we do some artwork of some kind to reflect on the meaning of Remembrance Day. And those are all fantastic activities. But if you're looking to do something that's different, then you should check out my video below. It's about making a stop motion animation reflection about Remembrance Day. And I'm going to pause you right there because you're probably thinking, well, Mariana, stop motion animation, that sounds really technical and complicated. But I'm here to tell you it's not. And in the video, I literally go step by step and show you exactly what you need to do. And it is so simple. If you know how to open up Google Slides, if you know how to insert a background, that's all you need to do for this stop motion activity. So again, I will link the video in the description below. You can watch it, and it'll be a really fun and interactive way for your students to still reflect on and honor the meaning of Remembrance Day, but doing it in a different capacity. All right, and all of the books that I'm about to mention to you are available in the description of my video, so you can just follow the link. I recommend that you go to your public library and you pick up these books, to use in your classrooms. But if you do want to order yourself a copy and have it on hand for your own personal library, then I will leave a link down below and you can find it on Amazon. So let's get started. I'm going to start with the most popular book that everybody uses for Remembrance Day, and that is A Poppy Is To Remember. This is a classic and it is a must for every Canadian classroom. It is a very well-written story. It's written by Heather Patterson and Ron Lightburn. It's a very classic book that talks about, honestly, like the significance of Remembrance Day, about World War I, where did we get the poem In Flanders Fields, and how do we recognize and honor Remembrance Day now in present day. So if you do not have this book, or if you have never seen this book, this is a must, an absolute must for your classroom for Remembrance Day. Now, a fun fact about this particular copy, you can see that it's kind of been well loved. When I graduated university, I took a trip to Europe and I went to the Normandy D-Day beaches, and I saw this book at the gift shop, and I had never seen this book before. So I thought, oh my gosh, this must be only available here in Normandy. So I picked it up and I paid I think it was like 7-8 euros at the time, which was like, $15, whatever. And I came back to Canada and I was showing my relative about it. She goes, oh yeah, I have 2 copies of that. And she paid $8 each for them. So anyways, I totally got gypped on this resource, but I'm glad that I have it. And now I have a fun story to share about this particular copy. The next book I want to recommend to you is All About Peace. And this is a really great book to read for the younger learners. What does peace feel like? And this book is really fun because it invites children. It asks them, what does peace feel like to you? And so different children have their responses. And so they'll say, what does peace smell like? Peace smells like a bouquet of flowers in a happy family living room, So it goes through all of our senses. So again, I would highly recommend this book if you don't already have it for your classroom, because it talks about all the different senses and it relates to some really wonderful visual, creative writing with a lot of descriptive words as well. And then you can do some artwork to go with it as well. So I highly recommend that you grab yourself this copy as well. So these are the 2 books, bar none. If you have nothing for Remembrance Day, these are the 2 books that I highly recommend that you grab for your classroom. So what does peace look like? Let's see, who is it written by? By V. Radunsky, and Children Just Like You from Around the World. So there you go. These next 3 books I also do very highly recommend that you have in your classroom. This one is a really fun book called The Peace Book. I just recently used this with my small groups kiddos that are learning English. This book is really, anything by Todd Parr is a very fun book to read. But the Peace book just talks about, what does peace feel like, or what is peace? And it explains it in terms that really young learners can understand. So peace is saying sorry when you hurt somebody, but peace is also helping your neighbor. Peace is being able to read all different kinds of stories, and peace is thinking about someone that you love. There's just a lot of different ways that he explains what peace is in the story, and the visuals are really fun, and it just explains it very, very basically. So when we're talking about Remembrance Day and the war and the sacrifices that, peacemakers have made, it's also important to focus on what is peace and how can we bring peace amongst each other. And this is a great book to do that. These last two books that I have to recommend to you that are pretty typical in a classroom actually follow along the same lines. So I'm going to show them both at the same time. This one is called We Are Born Free, and it's an illustrated version of the Universal Declaration of Human Rights in pictures. So this one is a little bit heftier, but I still use it in my grade 3 and my grade 4 classroom. And when I talk about this, I talk about how these rights are all things that we are entitled to because we are born. So this lends itself really nicely to the social studies curriculum as well. So there's a tie in there. But it talks about, what are our different rights, and it gives us examples in pictures. So, and what I like too about this book is that it's all different illustrators as well. So each page looks different, which is really fun. So I like to also use this book in the week leading up to Remembrance Day because we are all born free, and it talks about what is your right as a human being, and the people that were going to war, the people that are in conflict right now, they should be free from war and harm, and they're not. So this is a really good book to spark conversation in your classroom. And it goes with this book as well. I Have the Right to Be a Child. So these are universal rights for all humans, but these ones are specifically for children. And this is written by Aurelia Fronti. And Alan Ceres. So I am a child with eyes, hands, a voice, a heart, and rights. I have the right to a first name, a last name, and a family that smiles at me, and a country that I can call my home. So this is written in a much more student-friendly, child-friendly way for them to understand what do they have a right to as a child. And yes, as a child, they still have rights. So I really like this story for that reason. This book plus this one I use in the lead up to Remembrance Day, in addition to these other 3 as well. So these are my 5 go-to must-have books in any classroom when you are talking about Remembrance Day. And I don't just use these books the week up to Remembrance Day. I like to sprinkle these throughout the month of November, because in the beginning of November we have Remembrance Day, but then towards the end of the month in November in Canada we recognize the Holodomor, and I'm going to talk about that a little bit more in later videos, and I've already done videos on this channel about Holodomor. But again, the Holodomor is similar in effect to like the Holocaust. We had between 7 to 10 million people, Ukrainian people, die of starvation. So I like to talk about these themes all in November. These are great books to lend themselves to those topics. All right, now I want to show you 4 more books that you might not have considered when you want to talk about Remembrance Day. And the first one, I bought this before the world conflicts began, before the war in Ukraine began, and before the current war that's happening. Well, both are current, but the war that's happening in Israel and Palestine. And this book is called What is a Refugee? And we're seeing a lot of refugee students come into our schools more and more now with the conflicts that are happening. So I'm grateful that I bought this book, but I'm not grateful at the same time, if you can understand that. So What is a Refugee is a wonderful story that's written in child-friendly language, where it talks about wars and conflicts and how families and children have to flee. And what does that mean? That means that they are a refugee. And so, this is a great story that touches on that subject, and it sparks really good conversation, especially if you have refugee kids. Like I know I have at least 100 students at my school that are refugee status. So if you don't have this book, if you haven't thought about this book, this is also another book that you can use to talk about Remembrance Day. We all know and love of our favorite artist, Peter Reynolds, favorite artist and author as well. But this book in particular, I Am One, is a book talking about action. What can you do as a one single person? What can you do to spark an action in the world? And so the theme about Remembrance Day, of course, is remembering and honoring those peacemakers that gave their lives so that we can live in peace. Well, what can we do to continue that honor and to continue the thought? And this book talks about that. I can do one stroke to start a masterpiece, one note to start a melody. I can take one step on a journey, or one brick to start breaking down walls. So it's very, very metaphorical as well. If you're looking to extend the conversation past Remembrance Day, what can you do to be a responsible, ethical citizen? Then you can use this book, I Am One. There is also another book called I Am Peace as well, which again, the topic of peace, perfect companion book, but I like to use this book as well, I Am One. These last two books go together. They have a similar theme. So this one is the Barefoot Book of Children, and it talks about all of the children, all of the kinds of children around the world, all the different kinds of cultures and homes and clothing and languages spoken. We have beautiful illustrations. This is actually one of my favorite books to use in the classroom because the illustrations are incredible. But it talks about how it doesn't matter where you are in the world, all children play similarly, all children learn similarly. We all need to take care of our bodies, we all need to eat, we all need to drink. We all have languages and cultures and traditions. So this book is a wonderful book to talk about the unity that we have in the world and how we are all similar. And the reason why I bring this up for Remembrance Day, because we're talking about war and conflict, and oftentimes the reason why we have conflict is there is a misunderstanding or a lack of understanding of other cultures or other people. And so if we can bridge that gap, then it will lessen the amount of conflicts that we have, of course, in my opinion. Then this book is called One World, One Day, and it again talks about the different families, the different houses. Everybody experiences the same things. We all experience eating together. We all experience the sun setting. We all experience play. And these are all real photographs from around the world as well. So again, similar idea where, we're trying to build that global citizenship, the respect for humanity, respect for each other as well. So I do like to bring these out in November. I like to use them as display books in my classroom. Students are welcome to read these books at any time, but it goes along the theme of we are one people. We are all human. We are all a human race. So I like to use these books as well. All right, so that's it. Those are the 9 books that I have in my classroom for Remembrance Day for November. I use A Poppy to Remember. I use that to teach. I also use What Does Peace Feel Like? And then these 3 books I also use during the month of November. These are my teaching, like my mentor texts that I use for the themes that we're talking about. And then these ones I like to have available. What is a Refugee? I like to have that one available. I Am One, Beautiful Connections to Social Studies and Global Citizenship. And then we have these books as well that I like to put on display. I really hope you enjoyed this episode. I love doing book recommendations as well. I could spend hours talking about books, but I try very hard to keep these videos as short as possible, just so you can get the quick idea and then you can take them off to your classroom. So thank you so much for being here, everybody, and I'll see you guys in the next episode. Bye.